Hey kids, it's Skalsimir, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the character of Sylvanas, and comparing her to a similar villain who was executed significantly better, showing why people dislike her, how they could have made her more likable and enjoyable as a villain, and I'm going to do so through the use of Google Slides. So, what are the goals? The goal is to prove Gul'Dan and Sylvanas both have a very similar character arc. Gul'Dan is significantly better executed, and I intend to show how and why. I'm also going to display ways that her character arc could have been done significantly better. So, to start this out, we have to talk about the similarities. The basic background of both Gul'Dan and Sylvanas are pretty much the same. They have effectively the same story up to a point. Both are outcast from their original factions. Gul'Dan exiled from his tribe because of the fact that he's a weak cripple, and Sylvanas being cast out from the Alliance as a whole after being slain by Arthas and reanimated as an undead banshee. Both of them are strong. Gul'Dan, it sort of applies less to, but he is certainly stronger after having discovered the Fel, though he was initially weak. Sylvanas, she also ended up being strong as a result of being reanimated as a banshee. She was already pretty powerful beforehand, but Arthas made her much more so. But here's sort of one of their differences. Gul'Dan, he wants to be even stronger because he wants to be a better, more powerful man than the ones who cast him down for his weakness. While Sylvanas, she kind of just wants to be stronger for reasons. She vaguely describes it as something involving freedom. This is one of the issues that we're going to get back to later. Both of them achieved this power by making a pact with a significantly stronger force at the end of the day. So, let's talk about one of the things that makes Gul'Dan significantly more interesting than Sylvanas, and that is the art of a struggle. When you compare the two of them, one thing becomes quickly apparent. Sylvanas never struggles to a meaningful degree. She'll occasionally come close to a defeat, but never enough to really convince the audience she'll lose. Gul'Dan is a far more compelling villain because of his many failures. He died once in the tomb of Sargeras. He's a cripple who is described to feel immense pain when he's physically active. He was defeated in Hellfire Citadel, and he was initially distrusted by the Legion, which we'll circle back to, as this one's a little less well-known knowledge. Another important thing to notice is something that I don't have on this slide specifically, but there's more failures than I just described here. He was actually one of the soul batteries used to bring the Iron Horde to Azeroth in the first place. And I don't mean he channeled his power willingly. No, he was imprisoned and suspended by a bunch of souls. So let's talk about the examples of the struggles that he's had. So, first off, let's look at him being prevented by Gul'Dan, or being prevented by Garrosh from corrupting the Iron Horde. If it'll open. There we go. It's too loud. So, as you can see there, he was pretty easily stopped by by Garrosh, after Garrosh came to alternate Draenor and forced him to basically fail and then be turned into a soul conduit. Additionally, at the end of Warlords of Draenor, Archimonde was defeated, and as a result, Gul'Dan essentially got sent to a different plane, in an extremely torturous fashion, it would seem. Listen to the pain he is in. You can hear at the end there, him screaming, "No, no," over and over again. And this is sort of what I mean by the struggles. This last one is too long for me to play here, but In the audio drama, The Tomb of Sargeras, which I highly recommend you listen to, Gul'Dan is shown to struggle both physically to press onward without the usage of the Fel, and he is constantly mentally barraged by Kil'jaeden whenever he tries to be independent because the Legion does not trust him due to the actions that the past Gul'Dan had committed. Not even him. So why does this matter? Because we never see Sylvanas struggle, her moments of victory feel both unearned and pretty much just obnoxious. Her only meaningful sustained damage after years of getting on everybody's nerves is a tiny scar on her eye from Saurfang. When she's almost defeated, some stroke of luck or stupid grand magician plan saves her, and then it results in her obnoxiously monologuing. Tyrande almost kills her, she gets spared by a loon, and then she immediately puts on a stupid smug face and starts talking down to Tyrande like she wasn't just about to get murdered. It's dumb, it doesn't make sense. So let's talk about how much sweeter the victories are. Because Gul'Dan is struggling so much, so frequently, his victories feel significantly more earned. While we don't like the actions that he takes, they are narratively satisfying and oftentimes quite badass. Additionally, when he does win, it often still makes the losers look cool as well. This is important. People love to talk about how annoying it is that Sylvanas is always looking cool and doing cool things, but if her enemies looked just as competent and awesome, then I think that it would be significantly toned down the hatred that she receives. Whenever he makes a joke, or whenever he taunts somebody, Khadgar is there to match him. This is especially seen in the Tomb of Sargeras audio drama, but it's additionally seen throughout his time in both Draenor and Legion. He'll say something rude, or he'll talk down to them, and Khadgar will be there to match it with either something badass or something just as witty and clever. This is pretty important, and I'm going to circle back to it later. In Varian's death cinematic, he destroys a massive Garothi worldbreaker and slices through tons of demons before he dies. Gul'Dan says to him, "You will be remembered as the king who sacrificed his life for nothing." And Varian, even before he dies, gets off a cool one-liner. "For the Alliance." Khadgar constantly is taunting him and even outmatching him intellectually. This is seen time and time again. He is significantly more witty than Gul'Dan, and he doesn't have false ideas of him being the best. He's humble, but he's, at the same time, extremely competent. And when he fails, the voice actor does an incredible job of catching the turn of emotion from both smug to terrified to even being in pain. I mean, you heard the, horrific grunts and screams whenever Archimonde turned against him. So here we're going to talk about how to fix Sylvanas, how to make her more narratively satisfying to the audience. I'm going to recommend that they clarify her goals. They put her weaknesses front and center. They make her a static character. And this one, it sounds like it's a bad thing. Being a static character essentially means that they don't meaningfully change in goals and motivations over time. Now, you might think that that's a bad thing, that that's boring. But the opposite is oftentimes true. They've tried too hard to make Sylvanas this complex mastermind villain. And as a result, she's become pretty much universally hated. Gul'Dan had one goal throughout the entirety of his existence in both iterations of his existence. He wanted more power. Now, it's not the most exciting goal, certainly not the most creative, but it's effective, it's simple, and he executes it well. I think she also needs a legitimate nemesis to her. I think that people need to fight back against her in cinematics and in cutscenes in a way that is both interesting and narratively satisfying, especially in regards to dialogue. So let's talk about our goal. I've already mentioned that Gul'Dan wants to be strong because he's too used to being weak. We don't know what Sylvanas wants. She basically just sits here vaguely saying, "We are all prisoners. or we are all chained by fate. Like some sort of bastardized version of Illidan that's also not cool enough to make up for it. So, here are my recommendations. Make her goal simple but relatable. Stop making her vague. It's annoying. Nobody cares at this point. Maybe her goal is something that's somewhat selfless, but she's gone too far. You know, they're constantly trying to draw parallels to her and Arthas. But because we don't know what she actually wants, we don't really get the feeling of them being one and the same. Maybe, I think a really good goal would be that she specifically wants to spare her people from the Maul. Maybe the pact that she's making isn't to destroy all life or to free everyone from the chains of mortality. Rather, it's to free the Forsaken from the chains of the Maul that are certainly going to bind her at the end. Or bind them at the end. Additionally, make her loyal to something again. She doesn't even believe in the jailer right now, which you see in the cutscene at the end of Sanctum of Domination. I'm not going to spoil it beyond that, because that's not the goal of this video, but she has pretty much no meaningful chains that bind her beyond these vague ones that she's talking about all the time that don't seem to exist meaningfully. Make her weak. Sylvanas never struggles with pretty much anything. There are a few moments where she should have had at least the crap beaten out of her for a bit. Lich King fight. She had more trouble breaking the crown in two than defeating Volvar. Tyrande fight. She actually had a lot of trouble here, but I think she should have received a scar from it to really cement that she lost. Imagine if Tyrande had, done what Nathanos had done to him, you know? She tries to decapitate Sylvanas, and Elune binds her hand at the last moment, but the blade slices across Sylvanas' throat, leaving a permanent mark. She also should have some acknowledgement of emotional pain from Nathanos' death. I find it so disappointing that she hasn't mentioned it pretty much at all since he died. She has more trouble looking at Anduin being a slave than she does at her lover dying, knowing that her lover is dead. Speaking of which, on the topic of the Shadowlands trailer, I found the cinematic trailer to be pretty terrible for a couple of reasons. She pretty much had no struggle, there was no grand scale to it. The Lich King, one of the coolest characters in the lore, didn't look cool pretty much at all. So, I'm going to recommend a few things. This is kind of off topic, but I'm going to recommend a few things to make that one better, because I think it would have done a lot for her character. I think Sylvanas should have had an actual battle with the Lich King. I think her loyalists should have been there, along with Nathanos, fighting against Bolvar and the Four Horsemen. It would be much more believable if she lands lucky shots on Bolvar in a chaotic fight, rather than him just standing still and tanking arrow after arrow. He is not an idiot. He's a skilled tactician. He was the High General of the Alliance, and he doesn't come across as it to me during the fight. He comes across as your standard brute. Also, Bolvar should beat her into the ground. He should absolutely be thrashing her, you know, hammer to the side, hammer to the side, hammer to the face. And then, when she's on the ground, he's got his hammer raised up. He's about to cave in her chest when suddenly a blighted arrow from Nathanos comes out of the air, strikes him in the neck, and buys him the time that she needs to defeat him. I think that would have made a lot more sense than her just 1v1ing him out of nowhere with power that pretty much was never well established prior. Make her a static character. Whenever Sylvanas used to change, it was cool. It was badass whenever her mentality shifted because Arthas died and it became, I want to preserve my people. I even enjoyed when she was forced to step into the light and become the war chief during Legion. You know, she had to tread much more lightly because of her scheming that she had already been doing, but now she was stuck as the figurehead for her faction as well. Nowadays, it's just annoying. They're trying to treat her and her motivations like a grand mystery, but it's obnoxious. She needs one main goal that she strives towards at all costs. She needs well-defined morals that she will not breach. She needs to have a strong justification when her morals are broken by her allies as to why she will stay with them. How is she excusing that the jailer is basically, turning Anduin into an Arthas-style slave? Why does she consider him to be any different from Arthas? Imagine if she had some sort of explanation. I guarantee you that the book they were making about her is going to try and do something to this extent. Try and explain how she justifies allowing herself to work alongside the jailer, whose ideals pretty much ideologically oppose hers. Give her a nemesis. Both Tyrande and Greymane hate Sylvanas with a passion. I think they would make an awesome pair to go against her. During the Tomb of Sargeras novel, which, again, seriously recommend you listen to it. It's an audio drama on YouTube. You can find it for free. It's like an hour and 30 minutes. Maiev and Khadgar work in tandem to defeat Gul'Dan and basically force him to accept that if he is going to destroy Azeroth, or if he's going to claim Azeroth, he'll have to do it with the help of the Legion rather than by his own power. So, you can have a very similar thing in this. Tyrande brings the strength, and she's still smart, to be clear. She's just not making witty quips during the fights. And Greymane could bring the wit. It wouldn't be that difficult to have the two of them working together, especially considering they both have very vested interests in destroying Sylvanas. Imagine stupid monologues coming from Sylvanas' mouth, and Greymane is there to counter it with his own words. I have a really cringy idea for some dialogue that they might have. It probably would be a lot better than what I wrote, assuming they actually hired a writer for this, rather than the interns that they have on the story right now. To be clear, I don't actually hate the writers, but I do think that there are some serious problems in the game's management in that regard. I'm not a paid writer, by any means, but I think, in general, some banter, rather than one-sided BSing, would be pretty cool. So, here's where I'm going to put our conclusion. Sylvanas is Gul'Dan, but executed poorly. She has no nemesis, no goals, no struggles, and no intellectual dialogue with other characters where they fight back. When she does have trouble, it feels half-hearted, and it fails to leave any meaningful mark on her. Remember that time that she killed herself by jumping into a bunch of spikes? Not a single scar on her body, not a scratch. If Blizzard wants us to care about her, this has to be changed. It's probably too late now, but I would recommend seriously that Blizzard at the very least keep these ideas in mind whenever they try to design these villains who are both smug and compelling. I think Denathrius is actually done significantly better than Sylvanas is in this expansion. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Or don't. That's kind of your business. Ciao, ciao.